Good morning. Welcome to the Affordable Housing Advisory Board meeting on September 12th, starting at 9:04 a.m. Sorry, we were delayed a little bit getting started. I want to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to attend. But first, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can, please stand, and hopefully communications can show a flag for those online. I pledge allegiance to the flag
to the flag of the United States of America,
to the
to the republic which it stands,
one nation, under
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And today is a perfect day for doing exactly that, the day following Patriots' Day, as we all took a time yesterday to recognize those that were lost on September 11th, 2001. With that, I'd like to welcome everyone, and I will ask our most wonderful new staff member to not only introduce herself, but also to call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. My name is Navia, and I will be calling roll today. Overman,
Here.
Rosenwasser,
Here.
Myers,
Here.
Abel,
Here.
Councilman Goods,
Here.
Jackson Sims,
Present.
Combs, Sarah Combs. Okay, perfect. David Hollis,
Present.
Gordon, Dr. Gordon,
Present. Present.
and Adewepo. Adewepo. For county staff, we have Cheryl Howell
Here.
and Nancy Takamori.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner, we do have an excused absence from Cody Powell and Commissioner Mathis.
Mathis, excellent. And I want to recognize Dr. Strom is online as well to join us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I do not believe we have a quorum today, so we are going to have to delay having those minutes submitted to the Board of County Commissions. There's a lot of good stuff in it, so hopefully we can have a quorum next meeting and be able to actually send those on to the Board of County Commission. With that, I will open it up for public comment. Do we have anyone that signed up for public comment this morning?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
So we'll move on to the next item, which was approval of the minutes, which we will delay until the next meeting or defer until the next meeting. And on to chair reports. I'll keep my comments brief today. I will share with you, however, we just had one of the most wonderful experiences as it could be. This last month in August, I had the pleasure of attending, and many of our board members did as well, the Florida Housing Coalition statewide conference that took place in Orlando. I will share with you that Hillsborough is doing everything right. One of the things we continually heard in various different workshops, as well as in various large-scale presentations where the entire membership was present, Hillsborough shined well in terms of all of the things that we are doing here in Hillsborough County in order to facilitate not only additional units for those in our community that are working and looking for places to live, but also creative ways of securing land through our community land trust, ways that we were addressing tenant rights in the Tenant Bill of Rights that my office rolled out last week in last year before last actually, and the city of Tampa embraced as well, so that we were able to have tenants understand what their rights are and landlords understand what their rights and responsibilities were as well. There were many conversations regarding and workshops regarding different ways to fund and create and rehab properties in order to preserve properties in our communities. And it was a terrific, terrific experience. I was really pleased to see many of our board members were able to attend, and not only attend, but also participate in the presentations. So that said a lot about how much we are doing here and how well we're getting it done. So I just want to thank everyone that was able to attend. And if you may be able to see some of those presentations on the Florida Housing Coalition's website. If you weren't able to attend, I encourage you, if you're listening and want to learn more about affordable housing and all of the wonderful things that are going on, not only in Hillsborough, but around the state, I encourage you to go to the Florida Housing Coalition's website. They have many webinars there that can help you get up to speed on many of the things that are happening around the state. Our illustrious Cheryl Howell rocked it. She did a marvelous job. She's on the board. She helped organize it, and everyone had a fabulous time. It sold out. We had over 1,200 participants and vendors and individuals that were interested in working in housing, along with actually home builders and developers that attended in order to develop those relationships and to learn more about how they could help us solve the challenge associated with Florida's housing crisis that we are dealing with now. So I just want to thank everyone that attended and encourage you to actually go online and at the Florida Housing Coalition and listen to any of the workshops that you would wish to get up to speed and find out what's going on around the state, and also hear how your board members shined in those presentations.
Sure.
Councilman Good,
I just want to give a shout out to my housing department, who got an infield award. We talked about a lot of our vacant lots and city lots, and pressed that with the administration. Finally, we came up with an infield program, and we took home an award for that program. Letting the small guy get a chance to get a bite at the apple, and it's a successful program. Hope to continue that program. But again, like you said, the conference was sold out, and that means everyone knows we're in a crisis mode. And at one meeting where we had the Tallahassee group and the Osceola group talking about what they're doing as it relates to hotels and motels. That was very interesting. But the key word of the day that I was able to bring to everyone was versus affordable housing, attainable housing. And I can tell you the whole room erupted saying that's the right word for the times that we're in now. And that is the correct word. And also with workforce, we're using that word so loosely now, and that needs to be kind of reeled in a little bit. So people are concerned about those two words, and just to see that people are listening and want to take note and move forward with some new ideas to bring housing to everyone.
Yes, that was clearly the message.
Clearly.
One of the things that is a misconception about affordable housing is that that in probably 90% of the, and that's a round number and it's a wild guess, but I think it's pretty on point. 90% of the folks that need assistance in finding housing and need assistance in paying for housing are working people. And those that are not working people are seniors that are unable to work, and those individuals with disabilities that are unable to work. And everyone needs a home. Everyone needs a roof over their head, and needs shelter. So I'm very pleased with the work that we're doing here and making good progress. I don't see anyone on the that's virtual that's attending that has any comments, but with that, I'd like to also celebrate that this past week at the Board of County Commission, we approved the contract. I know I'm stealing Ms. Howell's thunder, but we had set aside $24 million of ARP money to go towards rehabilitation of units to create them more quickly than starting from scratch. That contract for the first one was actually approved last Wednesday. So yay. Thank you, Ms. Howell, for expediting that as quickly as possible, finding us a good location, getting us going. So I know for the people that are having difficulty finding housing, we can't do it fast enough. And I know those folks that are running around all over Hillsborough County with housing vouchers, the ability to be able to pay their rent and not able to find a location, we can't do it fast enough. But it's not to say we're not trying. So hopefully we can continue to have people have safe housing or at least shelter until they're able to find the home they wish to stay in. As far as the legislative update, I don't currently have a lot under that category because we're not really in session. But I do know that Hillsborough County is looking at various different pieces of property where we're able to take advantage of the legislation that allows the county to, I guess, preemptively adjust the comp plan and the zoning in order to help facilitate the rapid development of a piece of land that would provide for affordable housing. That is key. The development process is long. It takes a while to get you get your application in, then you got to do oftentimes, if the zoning isn't quite right, or if you want to take advantage of things that are coming down the pipe, for example, the increased density bonuses, that comp plan amendment is on the table, will be coming to the board soon. The housing element of the comp plan is also coming back. And we're looking at the bus emphasis corridor, and I know the city is looking at transit-oriented development. That comp plan amendment will be coming back hopefully by the end of the year. And it is a little bit dependent on whether or not we pass the transportation referendum, because that building corridors that have transit in is critically important, but having transit to be able to serve those corridors is also as important. If we have land use that actually identifies that you receive a certain density bonus as a consequence of being on a transit corridor, but we have no transit agency because we don't pass a referendum in 22, that's going to be a problem. So we do need to focus on where we are and how our voters are voting and how we actually deliver services to those residents that live in Hillsborough County. Because as we all know, if you don't have a car in Hillsborough County, you don't have a job. You can't get there frequently unless you happen to work right down the street and your kid's school is there as well. So it's really important that we take a look at what's coming down the pike, and that transportation referendum is a good example of how it not only supports transportation, but also helps us meet our affordable housing needs. And with that, we have a presentation by C.J. Reynolds regarding resiliency funding. C.J., are you there?
Yes. Good morning,
Excellent.
Commissioner.
Welcome. Could
Ms.
you do me a
Hall.
favor and introduce yourself and let everybody know who and how and wonderful things you do?
Absolutely. I'm going to start sharing my screen while I set this thing up. I am CJ Reynolds, and I am the Director of Resiliency and Engagement for the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. And I work with 32 governments around the region, the counties from Citrus all the way down to Sarasota, which is not in the Planning Council's footprint, but is a part of the Regional Resilience Coalition. I've been here since 2019. I was hired to coordinate the activities. I just want to make sure that you guys are seeing my screen and you've got the things. So
We
one
can
of the
see
things
it.
that
We can see it.
we
Go
began
ahead.
to focus on, which was actually from a research project that I was working on prior to coming here at the University of South Florida, was how is housing considered in the context of resilient adaptation in planning? What are the barriers? And we were working at the College of Marine Science, so a lot of it was on sea level rise and tools. And one of the things that we've come up forth with over the last several years is really a sort of an overview of what do we mean by resilient, sustainable, and equitable housing planning. And there's really there are a set of best practices and integrated approach. And Hillsborough County staff, the commission and the staff are tremendous. And we've had a great working relationship looking at various plans, having conversations about needs, priorities. USF early led some of the community vulnerability assessments, which really did look at housing even years before that. So the key to starting this off is to really know what exactly are the risks to your existing stock. What are the current flood risks? So if we, knock on wood, had a hurricane of some magnitude and the future flood hazards, but more importantly, and you've probably seen more and more increasing coverage, is the issue of heat as we go forward. A lot of this is really important. We know anecdotally, and directly where are your buildings, but it's really important that we both quantitatively and qualitatively acknowledge and define these risks that we have, which, in the past have really been sort of the purview of the floodplain manager, although you guys have previously had Jean Henry, and we think Christine is fantastic. To really integrate these kinds of risks into the housing department and all of the plans. When you're setting growth targets, it's important to be cognizant of what we potentially could lose under different risk scenarios and how we look at our growth targets then in a different perspective. And so one of the things is that goals and strategies across all plans should be developed to specifically reduce risks to affordable housing. And that's not to say like we don't want to have redundancy and lots of overkill in terms of language, but when you look at your local mitigation strategies and your other core planning documents as well as their budgets, how are we going to ensure that the infrastructure improvements support the housing that we have and other future developments? And specifically, as we know, the importance of needing to address the past inequities and the ones that continue as legacies today. So, and looking at all of that is a lot of work, and that requires many department collaborations, but developing what we call a strategic housing resilience and sustainable action plan. So we're in some cities and counties, and as well as the region has a regional action plan where housing is integrated into it to make it easy for everyone to just say, what are we really doing about housing? They're bringing all of those goals and actions and budgetary and responsibilities back into one document that's called a resilient and sustainable housing action plan. So it's not a duplicative thing, it's a integrative thing that we would all have. So of course, the big component of how we get things done is really comes down to funding, and congratulations on that quite substantial ARPA contribution. That's really impressive. And so maybe I don't even need to talk about what I'm going to talk about today, except that we always need more money. I know that is a fact. So part of the REACH project that we've been working on for 2 years and engaging the commissioners is integrating affordable housing and resilience, this resilience and energy assessment of communities and housing. That's our sort of overarching program framework to really begin helping to advance the tools, the resources, the community of practice to focus on these things. So we've done multiple workshops, there's checklists, there's tools, a new online flood mapping tool that is available. I'll talk briefly about that, the database. And then recently we were very fortunate to have a National Academies of Sciences grad student working with us to do basically what we call a hotspot or density analysis. So once you've looked at all housing across the county, where do you have areas of concentration that are particularly at risk? We had our housing conference on May 6th, which was phenomenal. We really appreciated the leadership of Commissioner Overman, as well as we had a panel with Manatee County, Pasco County, and Pinellas County's AHAC chairs, and really having frank conversations about priorities and new ideas. And we had developers at the conference. We talked about a range of policy improvements, and that is also on our website. One of the consistent, ongoing dialogues has been, well, these are great ideas, but how do we afford them? And what are we going to do? And particularly in our collaboration with the Florida Housing Coalition, it became very apparent that we needed to look more closely at what kind of funding mechanisms were really available and useful for mitigation or resilience, strengthening, hardening, flood proofing, or heat proofing, however you want to look at it based on the climate risk. And a lot of conversations on that and a long way to go on that. So one of the things when we start to think and talk about funding is that we often need to understand exactly what housing type are we thinking about when we want to look at resilience and integration. This is just part of the project we did. So to show you how the overall, analysis might be by specific type, this one on the left is what we defined as affordable using UF's sort of parameters for that. And then we mapped all of the 480, actually there's now 500 multifamily. I need to update that, but the map keeps changing and growing, which is a positive thing. And then also looking at mobile home parcels because they're really unique to that. So we had the tool, as I mentioned, which is now, so this little thing up at the top here, you can go into this tool and click and type in the address of a specific property that you're curious about. We designed this to make it easy for any decision makers and stakeholders. And if you're working on something and you don't have a specific knowledge of a building, and you really want to understand. Of course, you have a tremendous GIS staff and a planning resources that you have are really deep at the county, but sometimes it's just, you need a quick image and a quick understanding. And by doing this, you can get in here and look at what we've got. So this aligns with the state's requirements. It also includes storm surge layers. And so here's one of those scary maps, which we don't like to look at, but to see where you have multifamily units that are going to be at risk for different kinds of categories of storms. We also enable the clicking and layering of social vulnerability layers. This was using CDC's SOVI index. Again, this was in collaboration with a lot of the different community organization service providers, USF, in terms of defining what do we really want to be able to layer on and which kind of things. So from that, was just a quick recap of the REACH project to kind of set up what have we been talking about and looking at. And the conversation around funding is really an insignificant one, particularly after the ARPA money is spent. What next? What next for us? And so we really had recognized that due to these risk analyses and these density analyses, that there's substantial funding that is needed to proactively make resilience-focused rehabilitation and mitigation improvements to older family, multifamily, and single-family properties. It doesn't really make us resilient to wait and do post-disaster resilience mitigation and improvements. This is the big challenge we have of both the federal funding as well as state programs and looking at those things. So we know, and as you know, that deferred maintenance is a challenge, particularly that it can lead to additional health problems with residents and that sort of thing. It's one of the primary environmental burdens because it really relies and connects on mold. So through meetings with the Florida Housing Coalition, an organization that you perhaps have met, the Solar Energy Loan Fund, is also doing, I would call it sort of multi-level leveraging of philanthropic investment to make improvements in different things, for example, like the septic to sewer program. And one of our Resilience Coalition partners, the American Council on Energy Efficient Economy, to discuss funding. It's just a nonstop. What do we do? How do we do this? Let's really find something new. In this past year, ACEEE had a webinar on the availability of federal funding to states and what was local or available to local governments through the Children's Health Insurance Program, program known as Health Services Initiatives. And some of you may know this from other mechanisms. So starting in July and August, after we wrapped up most of the REACH project, we began to sit down with meetings, and it turns out that the staff in Miami-Dade County were also interested in this. So the ACEEE has brought us together to explore and learn more about this. So my role at the Regional Planning Council is to try to find these new opportunities for us where it makes sense for potential collaboration on these kind of multi-jurisdictional initiatives, whereas the funding may not be available for one individual local government unless we take a more coordinated approach. So I'm going to give you background on this. It'll be quite brief. But fundamentally, we know that we need to make these smart investments in both the integrated housing improvements and design them as both community health program interventions so that we can both address energy efficiency, resilience, and there's this fantastic report from the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative. Navia will have my presentation, and it'll, of course, be distributed to all of you as we go, as you're done with this. But so the funding mechanism that I mentioned is really the state Medicaid and Children's Health Insurance Program. The agencies at the state are authorized to implement these health service initiatives to improve the health of targeted and other low-income children. The HSIs are funded through a combination of state and federal funding. States can use their administration portion of their CHIP allotment. So currently there are about 22 states that have 42 or 44 HSIs. Traditionally, these things have been focused on important medical services such as immunization, in-school support. There are, in the last several years, several states that have implemented new HSIs. So you can establish an HSI, and then the state then can do an amendment and create a new one based on their own funding mechanisms. So these new initiatives are supporting what they call non-medical services that can be directly or specifically recognized as addressing health risks in these particular children in homes. So for example, lead abatement programs, mold, energy efficiency, because you have air quality. If you don't have an AC, you may have other components and of course burdens. So there is guidance on this, and which lists a variety of preventative services. And they encourage states to propose new programs. So I'm wanting to talk to you about the idea of proposing a program to our state to propose a program to the federal agency. So background on the Florida, what do we have and what are the fundamental requirements? So currently, Florida does have one that is focused on school services and medical, and it uses about $12 million. The additional amount that's available, should there be interest at the state level, is about 48.3 million under their funding that could be allocated towards a new HSI. Now, I'm using documents that have been compiled from federal documents. There may be, this may not be perfectly accurate, and there may be reasons why the state is not using this money. And so at this point, the group, Miami-Dade and I we've been exploring what is it today, what's the money amount, and to find if there's interest from the counties themselves and looking at this. So there's a match, which I was like, that's terrible. Of course, we have to figure so it's not terrible. The state to federal match, so Florida's defined contribution is at 28 to 72%. And so the match sources can be the state funds themselves, or it can be local government or philanthropic. It's really a mix of that. So if we were to say, go to the state with a program proposed at $48.3 million, we would need to probably work with them on defining all of a total of match for over $13 million. So it sounds like a lot of money, and it gives me a little bit of heartburn to try to figure out where would all this come from. But the money that you're already implementing, that you're already doing with programs, can be potentially leveraged for this. And there's lots of people who have very deep expertise in this, but as an example of a match, let's just say that County A defines a program that has a total of $1 million of expenses for targeted mold remediation and some aspects of energy efficiency for a subset. Now, it also needs to be aligned through your children's health program. So there's sort of a checkpoint. We won't get into all the details of like how you line up which children and families benefit from this, but it's fairly standard what you already have in the public health departments exists. But so if you had a hypothetical $1 million program, the local match, which would be $280,000, could be derived from these multiple sources. And this then would provide $720,000 towards the expenses and the cost for implementing that program. So that's just to give you a roundabout sense of the scale of it. It's not as momentous as $24 million as the ARPA. It is annually renewing program. And so this funding that is there, once and if and once a program was established, there could be multiple years of applications going forward. So basically, we have started, the Miami-Dade team and myself and the AACEEE are really starting to look at what are feasible resilience, housing mitigation, and weatherization potential. There's another nonprofit called the Green and Healthy Homes. I showed you their screen before, that they have been implementing different and similar programs and identified 10 key weatherization and efficiency intervention services, as they call it, that are directly linked to health benefits. So one of the important things is to document and have access to the resources that are saying these are not your cost benefits, but all of these non-additional public health benefits. So these, from what we can understand, these types of mitigation improvements definitely would meet and comply with the focus on health, direct health benefits. We see a need for also addressing the extreme heat, whether that's through AC or other building envelope or mechanical improvements. And the value of any of these kind of mitigations as well. The Healthy Children program is really the target. Of course, it benefits the additional family members living in those properties. So this was just some of the examples of the kind of types of services or programs for repairs that you could define and implement. And so you see here is the indoor environmental asthma triggers and allergens. So, if we were to want to do this, this is just, we would need to make the case for the state. We would need to work with the state Medicaid director and others at the state level to say, multiple counties are interested in, exploring the development of a new HSA focused on housing resilience and mitigation to address public health. Just went in, and I know that asthma is one of the, chronic problems associated with the low-income children. I pulled up the state data set and of this. So interestingly, they do this thing which is called the rating. They have a scale where you can look at as a percentage of your population, where does the county fit in terms of these quartiles of risk or numbers of people. And so, you know, your Hillsborough County is in this sort of 198 to 267. The darkest ones, as you can see, are really not the urban areas, but really rural areas are quite impacted from rate of the percentage, the numbers of children. And so then we did a quick, you know, let's sort this by actual numbers of children in this last year. And here's about the top 12 in terms of actual counts. And so 3 of ours, so Pinellas is also included, Pasco's included. So Miami-Dade is going to be talking to their compact. So we just will need to build the case if this is of interest. So part of the process is really this developing. The left column is really like, well, what the partner organization would be, would be the TBRPC, would be the, however we define the sort of temporary program initiation working group. We would develop, you know, our contacts, our relationships, talk about our priorities and interests. We'll clearly need a sort of a summary of a program based on what we think is, what you think and others think are the most important investments and potential programs, and then work with the state to co-develop it. They actually then must implement it as a state plan amendment. So they would take it, it goes into their documents. It's a very standardized federal application process. The state maintains the responsibility for implementing the program, which I would imagine would be probably under Florida Kids Care Corporation, just as you look at it, what they're already managing the money that comes in and dispersing that. I'm just speculating on that. We haven't had the conversation. But so looking at how it would go into the existing state structure is one of the things. Then once the state feels that it's a solid application, they submit it to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS as it's now. They are the final decision maker fundamentally. It's actually a fairly short process from what I understand from some of the consulting firms that have submitted this. It can go anywhere from once it's submitted, you know, it's more back and forth with the state to create that document, getting their buy-in. There's probably legislative buy-in if there's going to be requests for actual state funding matches for that, which may take longer. So, you know, those things, it's hard to know. But once an application is submitted to the CMS, I've understood that it's anywhere between 3 to 6 months for approval process. So it's not years down the road. It is something that could be viable for an FY24 or 25, depending on how we approach this. So that was it, just the overview. You know, I respect you have other topics on the agenda, but what I was hoping to get was some input from you today, really about your thoughts of might this program have some value? Is there enough interest to explore the development and interest? So we are building this working group, as I say, to really define what should the program parameters be, what kind of benefits I envision, or we've talked about it, sort of a menu of options that can be implemented under different components. So there could be like a heat menu, there could be a mold abatement menu, and different services could be implemented at local governments at will based on funding and priorities. So that said, we know, you know, it's another initiative. The interest would be to, between now and really the end of the year, convene a number of special experts, policymakers, decision makers to define what we need, create the roadmap for engaging and appropriately engaging the state offices and the state legislature, looking at who sits on what committees at the state, how they might feel about this. And so the question is, interested in your feedback on this, whether you feel that there's any staff capacity, Ms. Howell, to provide input and suggestions to the TBRPC and attend a few, you know, 3 or 4 working sessions to develop the ideas to create a summary document. We have a nickname for it so far. It could be better. If you have ideas, we're open to that. But we're calling it Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids. We think that fits under their primary objective and kind of quickly sets the where's this focused on. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. So.
Ms. Reynolds, thank you very, very much. This actually is a culmination of, this is a perfect, I was going to say perfect storm, but the storm's a bad thing. It's a perfect nexus of great things that we've been working on for quite some time. Last Board of County Commission meeting, the staff presented to the board some of the issues and opportunities associated with mold and in housing and in multifamily housing, and the things that we could look at. We've got our joint with the city of Tampa and county code enforcement, kind of keeping track of mold reports. We have been speaking with the Bay Area Apartment Association to really identify ways that we can ensure that people have healthy housing. And this actually is right in line with what we received from Dr. Holt over a year ago, where his desire to work with affordable housing to determine how we could address the issue of health and housing and the fact that there is a direct correlation. So I'm really glad that you're able to bring this to us. But I also wanted to ask that we do have the presentations become part of our minutes, because that not only, and the slides, because I truly enjoyed attending the REACH conference and seeing the different ways that you could actually add resiliency to housing. And when we have many of our multifamily partners, in other words, multifamily apartments that are being managed oftentimes to allow for individuals to live there, are of age, and they need some assistance in making sure that they're able to maintain those properties safely. And we have a lot of them in Hillsborough County. And as Ms. Reynolds mentioned, heat matters, especially when electric bills get out of control in the summer months. And we live in a very moist area. Humidity levels in the southeast region are exceptionally high. So I'm looking forward to, I know we don't really need a whole nother set of projects to work on because Ms. Howell, as well as her entire team, has their hands full. But this is encouraging. I would love to get a recommendation of partners that can be identified, that can assist us in exploring ways to move forward on this. And get more information from you, Ms. Reynolds, on specifically who we should bring to the table should this board choose to move forward on an initiative like this. Ms. Howell, I see you're looking like you're wanting to say something.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you, CJ. I just thought it was just tremendously important to bring this information over to the AHAB board. It's so many things that could be done, so many things that we're currently doing, but it's so many things that could be done as well. And so first and foremost, I want to say we have Dr. Gordon that's a part of Dr. Holt's team, and she sits on the AHAB committee. And so I did want to just point that out. And we currently meet periodically. Our teams do working on a housing as healthcare initiative. And so we know that there's so many things that need to be addressed in our system, such as addressing those properties that deal with the challenges of deferred maintenance, and how we might be able to intervene in those systems. We're trying to, but we understand that it takes money and it takes some will and some systemic adjustments as well in order to create some change in that area and create healthier living environments for the kids and for the parents living under those conditions. I too want to explore what kind of staff resources we could add to the process. I think I think it's critical as we move forward because we want to move forward in a more holistic way, and certainly this is a part of it, CJ. Now, I have one question for you. So, is there an HSI in the state of Florida now? And if there is, where's it located?
So there is a statewide HSI that is only using about $12 million, from what I can tell, that is focused on in-school medical services. And so it is, I'm drawing a blank on the exact department name that manages it, but it has nothing to do with housing. And so that is the new opportunity, as I see, the models from other states such as Maryland, Michigan, Arkansas even, which have developed these sort of housing mitigation programs that are focused on children's health.
Mm-hmm. Great. And we may want to think about bringing in our indigent healthcare team as well into the process. So, but let us internally think about some of the options, some of the resources that we have. Dr. Gordon, do you have anything that you'd like to add to the conversation at this point?
Yes, I do, Cheryl. Thank you so much. I found the information very interesting, as you probably thought I would, but also very challenging, especially when we get to the matching piece with the grant. It sounded a little complicated. We do get comprehensive school health funding that comes in through the health department, but it goes, we give it directly to schools to do services in schools. And we have things like the lead program, where there's funding in that you could consider for matching, but I guess it depends on how they would define specifically what a match is. But it's certainly very interesting. We have 17,000 kids in school with asthma, so clearly we do have a problem, and if we could help through some kind of housing, health initiative, that would be wonderful.
Wonderful.
Great.
Well, I know you have many factors to consider. I was hoping that we would at least get some expression of interest and support that Cheryl, I can follow up with you or you can send an email saying Hillsborough's willing to listen more and, have additional folks contact me. My executive director will be looking to, verify that there is interest from Hillsborough to further explore. There's no commitment to implement, just to explore the potential program, what it can do. And as Dr. Gordon said, what might one need for the match? How does that get implemented, and whatever you need to know. This is really the development phase, and we're just, I will be bringing this to the other AHAC chairs around the region to check with them, but Hillsborough's been such a leader. I've had really such great experiences working with both of you, and look forward to any additional input that you can share and help guide this, which would really open up new funding potentially for you, as well as other smaller counties around the state that don't have the bandwidth or an RPC to make this happen. So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, CJ. And I just want to say, many of our surrounding communities are going to be looking to us as they do so often in how we're going to lead in this challenge. We certainly have a number of different apartment complexes, multifamily units that we've dealt with over the last couple of years. And I want to say that Commissioner Overman has been knee deep in that process in working through some of those challenges. And so, we'll carefully consider, what resources we have, what staffing resources we have, and how we may be able to elevate and meet some of these challenges.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you this morning. I really appreciate it, feel honored, and just respect all of you and the commitment you have to affordable housing and our community members. Thank you.
CJ, thank you very much for being here today and for bringing this to our attention. I mean, the good news is we've got some serious partners out there that would be very interested in participating in a program like this. There are several of our hospital systems that are looking to invest in families, communities, and housing in some way, shape, or form of supporting strong neighborhoods and strong communities. I think they're an excellent partner. Honestly, I think the Bay Area Apartment Association may want to be a good partner as well, because many of their members are managing properties that could benefit from this kind of program in order to stabilize, increase sustainability, and to improve the tenant's situation or the children's life as a consequence of being able to keep and maintain properties in a healthy state. So I would like to move forward on this. Obviously, we don't have a quorum, so we can't really vote on it at this moment. So maybe we'll have one next month where we could actually take a formal discussion on how we could move forward on this. But I do believe that there's a great interest across the board of addressing health and housing. And this is an excellent opportunity for creating that nexus and the ability to actually find funding where it doesn't all have to come from Hillsborough County's budget. It can be in partnership with the federal budget or a program that's designed specifically to help improve this circumstance. So thank you very much. I also, as I mentioned earlier, is the earlier part of your presentation regarding resiliency is really very also important. Working with our home builders and our developers in how they develop, what community benefits or community resources or community design that could assist in creating resilient new communities, I think is a critical step in the right direction. And I look forward to working with you and the Planning Commission on, Regional Planning Commission, on making sure that we provide our builders, developers with the tools to help us build healthy communities that are resilient to the fact that we've got some serious changes. If any of you have driven around the county in the last day or two, we're saturated with water right now. Absolutely saturated. Everywhere I drove was, there was standing water where standing water never is. So we are starting to see, even though we haven't had a hurricane, we're starting to see significant rain events, in spite of the fact that we haven't had a hurricane, thank God. And but that does matter when we're building communities, and it does impact health when we have a lot of standing water around. So thank you very much for your presentation. Look forward to working with you and learning more. I would like to see if you wouldn't mind sending us the prototypes or what the programs that are in Maryland, Michigan, and Arkansas, to see if there's things we can learn. I take no pride in actually following somebody that's already got it figured out. So anything we can do to make sure that we understand what our steps would be and what kind of commitment it would take would be truly appreciated. And thank you very, very much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I will do that. We'll follow up with Cheryl's team. Thank you, and have a great day and a good meeting. I have to run to our council meeting now. Otherwise, I would stay and listen and learn more from you. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, CJ.
Thank you. That moves us on to our director's report. Ms. Howell.
Great. Thank you. I just can't say enough about CJ. She is a powerhouse in this field. So anyway, thank you to all of the board members that's here this morning for taking time out of your busy day. Let's get to the director's report. We had a number of really cool agenda items that went forth. The largest, which is the $16.2 million deal for the ARPA funds, and we have one more deal that's going to be moving forward, and I believe that is going to come in our October. That's going to be in our October meeting packet, and so I'm super excited about that. So that's going to give us 3 deals total out of the ARPA funds. And so if you'll just take a minute to really kind of peruse through those agenda items. We've been extremely busy we've had our foot on the pedal for quite some time. And I just have to say, I'm extremely grateful and proud of the efforts of the staff. I mean, they just do stellar work all the time in the community at community meetings, but all of the administrative work that it takes to get an agenda item to the board. I also want to thank Nancy Takamori for all of the work that she does from the county attorney's office as well. It's a true team effort. I want to move on and talk just for a little bit about.
Ms. Howell, can I ask you a quick question before you
Yes,
move
ma'am.
on? One of the agenda items that was presented to the Board of County Commission on August 17th was the satisfaction of the LURA which is the Land Use Restriction Termination Agreement for Sunrise Communities that provided affordable housing for an adult daycare center. That Sunrise community also was an important resource to provide services to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. One of the things that I'm pleased to hear that when we're providing financing for affordable housing through the Housing Finance Authority is that now that financing requires for LURA for perpetuity, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the land is kept for affordable housing. When something like this occurs, is there an opportunity, or what is the circumstance in this particular situation where those services may no longer be available for people that need affordable housing, especially this special category of intellectual and developmental disabled individuals? Can you share with us how that works and what we're able to do to preserve it?
I can share with you. This was a heartbreaking type situation for me, understanding and knowing the needs of the individuals and those that would be impacted. I met with the organization to explore how we may be able to continue to have the services for those individuals. And so, you know. I want to say that the organization was really kind of pulling out of this area. There were some changes that occurred in the payment systems in terms of Medicaid that impacted how they delivered services, and then there was the coupling of the impact of the pandemic and the reduction of the number of people that could be in the home. And so it just no longer was, I don't want to say cost effective either. You know, they continued to fall in the red each and every month. And so they were losing money trying to deliver those services. And so, you know, the staff met with them on several times. I met with them Commissioner, in a case like this, where there's very specialized services, we typically come in and make that investment. So it's very different from a from a project that's just a straight affordable housing multifamily deal. Because this is for those specialized populations, and understanding that many of the organizations have have other needs as well. And so this was a situation that we had no other option. We had no other option, and so we tried every way possible to look for a solution, but there was just no solution that was going to work for the sustainability of the organization.
And that's why funding for our people with disabilities is so critically important, and how there is a nexus between housing services and that population. As I agree, it's heartbreaking to find that a community that desperately needs those kinds of services, the families that have individuals with disabilities that are unable to manage their lives because they have an individual that is unable to be independent, now no longer has those resources. So we do need to continue to focus on perpetuity as far as our lawyers are concerned, to maybe avoid that in the future, but also see if there's ways that we could work with our state legislature on making sure that those gaps are at least revealed, and find ways that we could find funding to assist programs like this. It's not ours to do, but I think it would be important for our legislators to know what's possible and what's happening as a consequence of things like this.
But having in this particular case, having having the term of perpetuity would not have saved us. As a matter of fact, they gave back money on two other homes. You know, they kind of stepped back out of the deal altogether.
Right.
And so, you know, if it was an issue of money or terms or things like that, we were looking to do whatever we could do. But in terms of this particular organization and the challenges that they were facing, that would not have made a difference. But I can share with you that in many instances, when we look at some of the terms that were designed back in the early 90s or even late 90s, certainly you know, perpetuity would make sense in some of those cases, and in some not. You know, because you want a neighborhood to be able to change and evolve as well. And so it can't. You know, it's not always a one size fit all, but it certainly has a real place in our process, Commissioner.
Thank you. And then the next item was the agreement between Hillsborough County and the Center for Women to provide state housing and initiative partnerships or local affordable housing. Our trust fund, the county's trust fund, to really work on addressing single-family owner-occupied rehabilitation and focusing on East Tampa, Plant City, Town and Country, and Palm River, as well as many areas in the city of Tampa, to ensure that those homes are stabilized and rehabbed appropriately in order to not lose that housing stock. It actually is more efficient to keep a house on board than it is to build a new one, given all the cost and permitting and everything else to get one up and running, and the cost associated with developing and the land cost to get it done. If we're able to sustain that home and make sure that it's still available to serve its community, and that not only keeps the house together, but also keeps the community together. And so I am really pleased that we've made this agreement with the Center for Women's SHIP program, and be able to work on dedicating almost 1.4 million, almost 1.5 million towards renovating properties all around the county in order to keep those properties in good shape and safe for the residents that live there. So thank you very much, Ms. Howell, for making that happen. I know the board approved it, but you made it happen. So thank you so very, very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'm glad that Ms. Howell listened. You know, from day one, I've been talking about rehabilitation. The stock is there, but when you have people who can't afford to fix their homes up, they leave it. Mortgages go, and you have hoarders. You have any and everything you have in some of these communities. And if you go in and we can take them back and be able to make them affordable again, you can chip away at the crisis. And I've been saying that. I've told our people the same thing. You have to go in and look at every house on a block. You have to have the police, fire, any worker that can see this house has an issue or problem. Let's be able to knock on the door and find out what we can do, but not what we can't do. So I'm glad that Ms. Howell listened to me, heard it, and is moving forward with that. Very, very, very pleased with that. Thank you, Ms. Howell.
Right. It's better to do that than have code enforcement add a bunch of fines and have someone be unable to pay those fees. The other one that was also in your backup is an agreement between Hillsborough County and East Tampa Business and Civic Association for $1.5 million that's focusing largely on East Tampa. So we're seeing some of our oldest housing stock get to a place where it needs this help, and this is a perfect way to get that help in order to retain those properties that address those individuals that are under 80% of our average median income. So thank you, Ms. Howell. I'll let you go on, sorry. Just, we don't get a chance to really celebrate these kinds of things, and this is big. This is an important part of our initiatives to help us get where we need to go. So thank you.
It is an important part of our initiative. Another important part of our initiative is working with our urban county partners too. So we have 2 urban county partners, and that's with Temple Terrace and with Plant City. And we use some of the very limited funds that we get in from the federal government and partner up with the city of Plant City and Temple Terrace, go into communities and address some of the most dire needs. And so sometimes it's lighting, sometimes it is resurfacing of roads or sidewalks in low and moderate income communities. And so those type of improvements help to increase safetiness for people living in those areas. And so extremely proud of those efforts as well, Commissioner. And I'd like to talk about one other item that is on our list. Well, two other things really. I want to talk about our ribbon cutting for Volunteers of America. And for those who was able to be there, it was really a moving event. It was a smaller event. It wasn't a 100-unit apartment complex, but it certainly was a moving event. And when you look at what the tenants are paying and the tenants that are being impacted, it's certainly hitting a very needy population, and so it's a real feather in all of our hats. And so, if you're able to come out to some of those ribbon cuttings, I implore you, please do, and you'll understand what the work that you're doing and how that impacts people on an individual level. And the only other
Before
thing
you
that
go
I
on,
did want
Ms. Howell, can I share with the group a little bit about what I learned? Many of you may know that I chair the board for the Commission on Human Trafficking. And I'm working a great deal in the area of mental health, and on, because apparently I don't have anything else to do, so I need another project. So, but I am very concerned about mental health and drug addiction and stability. And through the Public Safety Coordinating Council, we're addressing the recidivism coming out of incarceration and the mental health support that's necessary for those individuals that frequently found themselves in jail as a consequence of drug-related addictions. Anyway, these individuals and these population of individuals have the need for supportive living. We've heard this from HOPE, from our local HOPE organization. What's wonderful about the Volunteers of America complex is that not only were we able to, for relatively little money, I mean, it's still a lot of money. I mean, it's almost $800,000 is still a lot of money. But for what we got back, for the return on that investment, for the 32 units that were there, was preserving housing in a community that is being supported. The residents there are have supportive living in order to help them thrive. Volunteers of America provides counseling, support, social work, resources for the individuals that are there to help make sure that they can live productive lives and can heal. And we don't have very many of those in Hillsborough County. We need a lot more of those in Hillsborough County. But to find one, because I went to a ribbon cutting, to really understand what was happening there, helped me realize why that investment was so precious. And Ms. Howell, thank you so much for recognizing the value of bringing that to our awareness and to making sure that those units were preserved for the people who live there. And it was nice. They did a great job with the monies that they were provided, and partnered, I believe, with Home Depot as well, was part of the funding.
Yes.
right. So there are corporations out there that will help us in this effort when we ask. So I think I just wanted to share with you. And we also have one coming up this Thursday, right?
Right, this Thursday. And I want to say that this is the second of two projects that have supportive services for people with mental health challenges or addiction challenges. And so the first was the Cove, and that was a few months ago. And then we had this one, but we're gonna have some additional ones coming up next year as well. And so I look forward to that. But I want to talk about what's coming up. We have an exciting event coming up this coming Thursday. We partnered up with Catholic Charities, and it is a 20-unit apartment complex. This is the second of our Catholic Charities projects this year. This 20-unit apartment complex is brand new. It's located right on a bus line, and I want to say that they did a tremendous job in designing and developing these units. Just a magnificent use of the space and everything. And so I want to implore you to come out. We are going to have the ribbon cutting at 10 a.m. on September 15th. And I want to say the bishop may be there as well. So please, if you can come out and join us, please do. I look forward to it. So, and
Yeah.
there's 20 additional new units that's coming into stock.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I've been going up and looking at the progress. I walked into them before they were finished to kind of see how awesome they were going to be. I can't wait to see them now that they're finished. It's just exciting to be able to provide housing for so many. And the contractor has done a stellar job. It really was good to see what we're able to do with this project. So if you're able to attend, I will definitely be there. But if you're able to attend, it's a lot of fun. Mr. Wassermaser.
Madam Chair, I am so thrilled that Catholic Charities has taken such a tremendous stance. I'm very involved with Catholic Charities, as you know. And Maggie Rogers, their executive director, has really made, and I think based a lot of it on conversations that she and I have had, made a huge effort to bring on more affordable housing projects like this. And they support them with mental health type of support staff, so that it's a wonderful combination, and I'm looking forward to more and more of those.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Excellent,
And
thank you.
so I want to say this is the last of our ribbon cuttings for this year. We don't have any additional ribbon cutting scheduled for this year, and so we're looking to get things piped back up in January of 2023 to have a whole list of projects that we can come out and celebrate and really just give yourself a pat on the back for the work that you're doing and what you're leading here at the Affordable Housing Advisory Board. So I just want to say thank you. And last but not least, we are having our Florida Community Development Association's conference that is going to be September 28th through September 30th. I want to say that Navia will be sending out the agendas. If you'd like to attend, the Affordable Housing will pay for your attendance at this particular conference. It's right here in Tampa at the Westin, and it's really going to be great. We have a whole day. Well, we have a half a day committed to housing is healthcare. And so we have Sherry Hoback is going to be our keynote speaker on day 2. And then they're going to come in with another session as well we'll have students there from the public health arena, and we'll have some advocates there from that deals with health equity as well. So I look forward to this event. It's two of the events, the Florida Housing Coalition and the FCDA conference are two events that I hold dear and close to my heart. And I love participating. And so some of it overlaps, but many of it doesn't overlap. And so I encourage you to come out, spend some time, create, find some new friends, create some new partnerships. So,
Thank you, Ms. Howe. Yeah, I look forward to that as well. My calendar is making it difficult for me to attend the whole conference, but I will get back to you. I know you asked me this morning and over the weekend what my availability was. I'm working on it. It is a great opportunity to learn a great deal about how our community develops when it comes to affordable housing. So I encourage those that have the ability to go to let Ms. Howell Nadia know as soon as possible. I also want to, before we go, I want to make sure that we say thank you to Sarah Combs. Sarah Combs has decided not to reapply. Her term is expiring. And we have put out to the community that her position is available. So we're advertising to replace her. But I will tell you that's going to be tough to do. I'm not sure if Sarah can hear all of this. I know she's still online. But I want to thank Ms. Combs, Dr. Combs, actually, for all the great work and input that she's provided to us. She's helped us with getting the community land trust up and running. She's worked with us on awareness on how we've moved forward when it comes to affordable housing and how critically it is. And then her involvement in the university area of raising the awareness in the bar has been absolutely stellar. Sarah, are you able to respond? I see her, but I'm not seeing her microphone actually attached. But let me do this. I see that Leslie Gordon has her hand has the hand raised.
Yep. Dr. Gordon.
Dr. Gordon?
Yes, just a quick question.
Sure.
Cheryl, if you could repeat the dates for the Florida Housing Coalition meeting in Tampa.
It's September 28th through 30th.
28th to 30th, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
we'll be sending out the agendas this afternoon.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Cheryl.
Ms. Jackson Sims, you had your hand up, I believe.
No, ma'am, that was a hand clap for Sarah for the work well done.
Okay, excellent. I think we all can do that. I'm not sure she's able to respond because it looks like her video's not really, or her microphone's not connected. But I couldn't let the day go by, given that her term is expiring, to not thank her for all the wonderful work that she's done as a board member here, and I truly appreciate it. Are there any other comments or future business that we should address?
Not at this time.
Okay. Hearing none from the board, I will thank everyone for joining us today, and hopefully we will have a quorum at the next meeting, because a lot of good stuff was passed here, and I want to make sure the Board of County Commission sees those minutes. So I look forward to seeing you in October, and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.